It's corrected? Okay, so our, excuse me, our next speaker that we've got coming up is Deepa Mann Kler. So she's going to talk about making pain fun with VR, AR. So Deepa is CEO and founder of Neon, creating immersive technology software applications for health and well-being in virtual and augmented reality. Thank you.
So I think some of the other speakers started off by giving a bit of context in terms of where they've come from. I've been in Northern Ireland 22 years, came here in March 1996, and for the first 11 years I worked in equality. I authored and researched the first report into racism out of the shadows here. And then in 2007 I took a career break to be a full-time visual artist. And in December 2016 I started Neon. So that's my journey. How many people here have used virtual reality? Put your hands up. Yeah, cool. I thought it would be a higher percentage. And how many of you have used augmented reality? Equally great, okay. For those of you that haven't, hopefully the talk will be a bit more illuminating by the end of it. So put that to one side. So 28 million adults across the UK suffer from chronic pain, and this costs the economy $5 billion per year in lost productivity, not to mention the emotional, physical, and psychological costs to the person, their family, and their friends. Last year alone in the UK, 24 million opioid prescriptions were prescribed. This has fueled addictions, and it's resulting in over 10 deaths daily. You may have seen the opioid crisis in the States as well. They have over 100 deaths daily. That's like 2 or 3 plane crashes per week. This crisis has been described as the silent killer. But why has it happened? For years, drug companies minimized opioid addictive properties, but they also exaggerated their benefit over the long term for chronic pain. But what research has actually shown is that opioids aren't effective for long-term use, and that their long-term use can actually make pain worse. But patients still need to find a way to manage their pain, and people living with pain need choices. And this is where technology, and in particular virtual and augmented reality, can and does help. And what VR and AR can do is actually help people feel human again. So VR is already being used extensively, not just to manage chronic pain, but also PTSD, depression, anxiety, phobia management, rehabilitation. And there's over 30 years of research, development, and validation that is making this choice real now for patients. And last year alone, there were over 8,000 articles published on the use of VR in healthcare. I attended a virtual medicine conference just over 2.5 weeks ago at the Cedars-Sinai Hospital in Los Angeles. And I was really impressed by a pain consultant there, Ted Jones, who came from the East Tennessee Institute of Pain. He conducted a study with his patients, and the study was with 10 subjects over 3 sessions using 20 minutes of VR. And he found, amazingly, that VR was twice as effective as morphine in reducing pain. Participants using VR reported that their pain fell by 66%, whereas the impact of morphine saw pain reduction only of 33%. There was also one other significant outcome. The effects of the pain reduction for those using VR stayed with the patients for up to 30 hours afterwards. So the benefits in deep breathing and meditation to help manage chronic pain have long been recognized, but amazingly, many of us don't know how to breathe deeply to maximize this benefit. It amazes me that we're not taught this at a really young age. When you get stressed, you breathe in a really shallow way, which is the worst thing that you can do for your body. And on average, each person takes 16 breaths a minute. And by the end of today, you will have taken 23,000 breaths. So what if your breath could be your medicine? So Neon's developed a VR app that uses the breath and rewards the person visually, enabling them to know that they're breathing in a way that maximizes their distraction from pain. The idea for the app came from a pain hackathon held last year on the 3rd of June, and it was held at Queen's University, but it was organized by the Innovation Lab at the DFP and the Public Health Agency. So the morning was attended by chronic pain sufferers and health professionals. People suffering from chronic pain said that they needed access to a range of choices to help them de-escalate their pain. And health professionals reported that the single biggest benefit their patients reported was being taught to breathe mindfully. So it was from this idea that Breathe VR was developed, to build a VR environment that could be directly affected by the user's breath. So Neon built the demo on the day, we got user testing, and we then conducted a pilot study in November 2017 with 10 people suffering from fibromyalgia and spinal fusion surgery. So participants were asked to score their pain before and after using the app. We used the visual analog scale, which is a scale used for psychometric testing. It ranges from 1 to 10, 10 being the most extreme form of pain. So after using Breathe VR for only 3 minutes, 8 out of 10 people reported a de-escalation in their pain, and the biggest drop was from 7 to 3.5. So what happens in Breathe VR? Once the headset is on, the user is in a bright, colorful, animated meadow. You can hear calming music in the earphones. And then you breathe in through your nose, but as you breathe out, the mic detects your breath and the leaves in the environment rise in response to that outward breath. And this sequence is then repeated, encouraging the user to breathe diaphragmatically. The combination of being in VR and using your breath to affect your environment maximizes your feeling of immersion, but also distraction from your pain. I'd like to share a story about one of the people in the study, Kay. Kay loves cycling, but 4 years ago had a cycling accident and underwent major spinal fusion surgery. They still suffer from partial paralysis down the left side of their body, and their pain is really obvious in the way that they move and on their face. And Kay doesn't want to use medication anymore, but Kay wants choices in terms of how they manage their pain. So after using Breathe VR for only 3 minutes, Kay's pain score fell from 7 to 4. Kay was close to tears as they came out of the VR experience because of the relief that they had felt for that short time period. And Kay's breath actually became their medicine in that VR experience. So Neon's preparing to launch Breathe VR on the Oculus Store. And I have the app and the Gear VR headset with me today if anybody wants to try it. So I'm happy to share that with you. And you don't need to be in pain to experience Breathe VR. Our user testing and feedback is telling us that there's really positive applications for people wanting to just meditate or be mindful or just to take some time out. So the second app that Neon has in development is called Whack-A-Mo. It's an augmented reality game, and it's based on the familiar whack-a-mole that you would play at fairgrounds. So Neon was approached by play therapists at the Belfast Children's Hospitals who want to use technology with children undergoing chemotherapy treatment, and in particular the routine cannula insertions and procedures. So undergoing any kind of medical treatment can be frightening and stressful for a child. And if the procedure fails to go ahead, this can result in a delay of treatment to the child and stress, but also cost to the NHS. And in the same way that VR has been shown to be effective in immersive distraction, AR equally offers the same opportunities. So the play element is really important in the AR app because it maximizes the children's attention. And we've also added 3 difficulty levels to ensure that it caters for a range of ages from 8 to 12 years. and that also the children will play the game repeatedly. To further enhance the children's attention, we're only making the game available in the hospital setting. So we conducted our most latest test yesterday with staff and children, where co-design and co-production are central values and in this process, and the heart pretty much of everything that Neon does. So while VR and AR have the capability to deliver much of what we have to be careful about what we promise in terms of what the technology can achieve. Essentially, the technology is there to give people choice. We have to understand the patient's point of view, and the key is to talk to patients, to see what works and what does not work. Jason Lanier, who's a thought leader in VR, said in his book, The Dawn of the New Everything, that VR can actually heighten our appreciation of reality. That emerging from the experience, you actually see the real world with fresh eyes. And for VR to be truly effective, it should be teaching people skills that they can use in real life. Furthermore, Lanier says that humans should never be passive consumers of VR, but they have to play a proactive role in the experience. And interestingly, when people choose their own content, their pain reduction falls even more. So when VR is personalized, it has a bigger impact. One size is not going to fit all, but how do you target the right experience to the right person? People who suffer chronic pain often have complex needs that distract from their goal of avoiding pain. Anxiety, insomnia, depression, frankly, get in the way. And to personalize this, Neon plans to use biodata to track the progress of the VR therapy. This creates a feedback loop for the patient to be reassured that they're doing the right thing. And for VR to truly succeed with patients, we need a staged and personalized approach to use the technology more naturally. VR also has the capability to retrain our neural networks and pathways through neuroplasticity. We can actually rewire our brains. And for virtual and augmented reality technology to be truly successful, it needs to be integrated into our healthcare system and not sit in isolation. So technology offers solutions that give people choice, but far more important, the development of the use of technology can enable people to share their experience, and in doing so, give them hope and enable people to feel human again. So new technology is not to be feared. New technology can be empowering. And Neon's core challenges are how we use the technology to offer choice and engagement for those who suffer from chronic pain. The alternative is to medicate. And for many people that I meet daily, that is not a real alternative any longer. So in closing, I'm committed to this because of personal experience. I've watched my mother suffer from chronic pain for the last 22 years. It's changed her beyond the person I knew, and it's had a devastating impact on our whole family. And to be helpless when you see someone you love in pain is probably one of the most devastating things that I've experienced. And I believe technology can finally give people choice that people like my mother have not been afforded to date. Thank you. Happy to take any questions. I'm around for the rest of the day if you want to come up and talk. Okay.
So we have one more talk before break, so I'm sure people are kind of